Sir. Sir! Where do you think you're going?
I'm heading to my office.
Your office?
Okay.
This is the Department of Justice. You need to check in at the visitor desk.
I work here.
Huh. Okay, sure. ID badge?
The security checkpoint at the Department of Justice, 8:47 in the morning. Sir, where do you think you're going? A black man in a navy suit stops. His badge is clearly visible on his chest. I'm heading to my office. The officer steps forward. His hand moves to his belt. Your office, this is the Department of Justice. You need to check in at the visitor desk. I work here. Oh, okay, sure, ID badge. It's right here on my chest. Step aside, I need to verify this, hands where I can see them. I walk through here every day. I said step aside, now don't make this difficult. Officer Daniels had no idea what he just walked into. In the next 17 minutes, his career would end. A $19.8 million lawsuit would be filed. The entire Department of Justice would launch an investigation. The man he just stopped, he wasn't a visitor, he wasn't an intern, he was the highest-ranking black attorney in the building. This was a state attorney general, a Harvard Law graduate, a prosecutor who had put away corrupt cops for 23 years. And he was walking into his own office for a meeting he was leading about racial bias in law enforcement. The security cameras captured everything. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever been treated like you didn't belong somewhere you had every right to be? Drop your answer in the comments. Officer Daniels had no idea who he was stopping. Attorney General Marcus Thompson grew up in Baltimore. His father was a civil rights lawyer. His mother was a teacher. From age 14, Marcus knew he wanted to fight for justice. He went to Columbia University, then Harvard Law School. He graduated near the top of his class. He became the youngest black district attorney in his state's history at age 34. Over 23 years, he put away 847 criminals. He argued before the Supreme Court twice. He won both cases. He literally wrote his state's police reform laws. 3 years ago, voters elected him Attorney General. He won with 58% of the vote. On this Tuesday morning, he was visiting Washington, D.C. for a federal meeting. The topic, how to stop racial bias in law enforcement. He was the keynote speaker. He had walked through this exact checkpoint dozens of times before. His badge was real. His credentials were perfect. His meeting started in 13 minutes. But none of that mattered to Officer Daniels. All he saw was a black man in a suit. Now here's what you need to know about the officer who stopped him. Officer Derek Daniels had worked at the Department of Justice for 11 years. Before that, he spent 6 years with the Capitol Police. On paper, he looked like a solid officer. But his file told a different story. 7 formal complaints in 4 years. Every single one involved a black or Latino professional. Every single one was dismissed. The reasons? Not enough proof, just a misunderstanding, following procedure. In 2019, he stopped a black federal judge. The judge was entering for a hearing. Daniels demanded extra screening. Nothing happened to Daniels. In 2021, he held a Latino congressman's aide for 22 minutes. The aide missed an important meeting. Daniels got a written warning. It was later removed from his file. In 2022, he refused to let a black female prosecutor enter the building. She had to wait until a white coworker came and said she was okay. Daniels got a verbal warning. That was it. The staff knew about him. Black and Latino employees learned to avoid his checkpoint. They called him Badge Check Derek behind his back. Many people filed informal complaints, but they were scared. They worried about their jobs, so nothing changed. For 11 years, Daniels faced no real consequences. He thought he was untouchable. But on this Tuesday morning, he picked the wrong person. He picked someone who had spent his entire career holding people like him accountable. Type accountability in the comments if you think 7 complaints should mean something. Tuesday, March 14th, 8:47 in the morning. The Robert F. Kennedy Department of Justice building sits on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. It's one of the most important legal buildings in America. That morning felt normal. Federal workers streamed through the doors. They carried coffee cups and briefcases. They swiped their badges and headed to their offices. 4 security lanes were open. 3 officers were on duty. Officer Daniels was working lane 2. Outside, it was a clear spring morning, 52 degrees. Cherry blossoms were starting to bloom. You could see them through the glass doors. At 8:47, Attorney General Marcus Thompson walked through the Constitution Avenue entrance. He wore a tailored navy suit. His state attorney general pin was on his lapel. His badge hung clearly on his jacket. He carried a briefcase in one hand, his phone in the other. He walked with purpose. His meeting started in 18 minutes. He was the main speaker. He approached lane 2. He placed his briefcase on the scanner belt. That's when Officer Daniels stepped forward and blocked his path. Sir, where do you think you're going?" Thompson had walked through this checkpoint dozens of times, but he had never seen this officer before. If stories like this matter to you, hit that subscribe button right now. Daniels pointed to the side. "Step aside, additional screening." Thompson stayed calm. "I work here, my badge is right here. Anyone can get a fake badge, step aside." "Would you like me to call my office? They can verify who I am." "I don't need your office, I need you to comply." "Can I speak to your supervisor?" Daniels stepped closer. "I am the authority here." Thompson looked around. Other employees walked through the other lanes without any problems. No one else was being stopped. Why am I being singled out? Random security check, it's procedure. Those people just walked through, why aren't you checking them? Daniel's voice got harder. "Are you accusing me of something?" Thompson took a breath. He decided to try a different approach. "My name is Marcus Thompson. I'm the Attorney General of my state. I'm here for the Civil Rights Coordination meeting." Daniels laughed, actually laughed. "Sure you are, and I'm the president. I'm telling you the truth." Her hands where I can see them, don't reach for anything." Thompson raised his hands. "Am I being detained?" "I'm conducting a security investigation." "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that I said so. Now stop resisting." "I'm standing still with my hands up. How am I resisting?" A woman in line behind Thompson spoke up. "That's the Attorney General from." Daniels cut her off. "Ma'am, step back. This doesn't concern you." Another employee pulled out her phone. She started recording. A third employee rushed toward the supervisor's office. Daniels moved his hand toward his handcuffs. "Turn around, hands behind your back." Thompson didn't move. "I'm not going to do that. Call your supervisor now." What Daniels didn't know was this. The woman who just ran to the supervisor's office, she was Thompson's chief of staff, and she had already made 3 phone calls. One to DOJ Internal Affairs, one to the FBI, and one to the Attorney General of the United States. Let me know in the comments, what would you have done in Thompson's position? At 8:54, the supervisor's door flew open. A man rushed out. His face was white. He was almost running. "Daniels DNILS, stand down now." Daniels didn't turn around. "I'm handling a security threat." "That's Attorney General Thompson. He's the keynote speaker." Daniels froze. He looked at the badge again, really looked this time. He saw the state seal. He saw the words Attorney General in gold letters. The color drained from his face. "I was just following procedure." The supervisor's voice was sharp. "Get away from him. Now you're relieved." Thompson slowly lowered his hands. He adjusted his suit jacket. He looked directly at Daniels. "I've been an attorney for 23 years. I know exactly what just happened here, and I know my rights better than you know your procedures." Daniels tried to speak. "I'm sorry I didn't." Thompson held up his hand. "Don't. I've heard that apology before from officers I've prosecuted." By now, a crowd had gathered. Witnesses were everywhere. Sarah Chen was a lawyer in the Civil Rights Division. She had seen the whole thing. "He didn't stop anyone else," she said. "Just him. I watched at least 15 people walk through. Only the black man got stopped." Michael Okonkwo was an FBI liaison officer. He was also black. I've walked through that checkpoint 100 times. Daniels has never stopped me, but I always wear my FBI jacket. Maybe that's why. Rebecca Morrison was a paralegal. She had started recording at 8:49. I have 7 minutes of footage. I got everything. The evidence was everywhere. 4 security cameras had captured the whole thing from different angles. 3 witnesses had recorded video on their phones. The badge scanner logs showed Thompson's credentials were verified at 8:47 and 23 seconds. The checkpoint records showed something else. 0 other random checks that hour. Thompson was the only person stopped. Things moved fast after that. The DOJ Inspector General was notified by 8:58. The FBI Civil Rights Division was alerted by 9:02. The Attorney General of the United States personally called Thompson by 9:15. The Federal Protective Service Director arrived at DOJ by 9:45. Meanwhile, Daniels was escorted to the supervisor's office. His badge was taken. His weapon was taken. He was placed on leave immediately. He asked one question, "Am I being arrested?" The supervisor looked at him, "Not yet, but I wouldn't make any plans." By 9:30, Officer Daniels was sitting in an interrogation room, the same building where he had worked for 11 years. Now he was the one being questioned. At that same moment, Attorney General Thompson was delivering his keynote speech. The topic was racial bias in law enforcement. The audience gave him a standing ovation. The irony was not lost on anyone. Drop a comment if you think the timing of that speech makes this story even more powerful. The investigation started immediately. The Federal Protective Service Director arrived at 9:45 in the morning. The DOJ Inspector General opened a formal case by 10:00. The FBI Civil Rights Division assigned a special agent by 11:00. They reviewed the security footage frame by frame. They checked the checkpoint logs for patterns. They pulled all 7 previous complaints against Daniels. They interviewed 14 witnesses. Daniels tried to explain himself, but his story fell apart quickly. He said it was a random security check, but the records showed 0 other checks that hour. Thompson was the only person stopped. He said the badge looked fake, but the badge was a real state-issued Attorney General credential. The state seal was clearly visible. The word Attorney General was in gold letters. He said Thompson was acting aggressive, but 4 camera angles showed the opposite. Thompson was calm the entire time. His hands were visible. He cooperated completely. The decisions came fast. Daniels was fired from the Federal Protective Service, effective immediately. 11 years of service, gone in one morning. The case was sent to the FBI Civil Rights Division. They would decide if criminal charges were needed. The DOJ started a full review of all security rules. All 7 previous complaints against Daniels were reopened. Daniels couldn't believe it. At first, he was in denial. "This is being blown out of proportion," he said. Then he got angry. "I was doing my job." Then desperate. "I have 11 years of service, 11 years. Finally, he tried to bargain. "Can we just talk about this?" It was too late for talking. Meanwhile, Thompson finished his speech. Staff members were crying in the audience. DOJ employees of color started sharing their own stories about the checkpoint. A group gathered in the lobby to show support for Thompson. But the story was just getting started. By noon, it had leaked to the press, and someone had uploaded Rebecca Morrison's 7-minute video to Twitter. If you believe officers should face real consequences, hit subscribe. We cover stories like this every week. The video hit the internet at 12:15 in the afternoon. By 1:00, it had 50,000 views. The hashtag #JusticeAtJustice was trending in DC. By 3:00, it had 500,000 views. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News were all running the story. By 6:00, it had 2.3 million views. News outlets around the world picked it up. By midnight, it had 8.7 million views. The hashtag #BlackDOJ was trending across America. The numbers kept climbing. On Twitter, the video got 8.7 million views and 234,000 shares. On Instagram, reposts reached 3.2 million views. On TikTok, different versions got 12.4 million views combined. YouTube news clips added another 6.1 million. Total reach in 48 hours, over 30 million people. The comments poured in. "He literally prosecutes racist cops for a living." That comment got 47,000 likes. "The audacity to do this at the Department of Justice." That one got 89,000 likes. 11 years of complaints and nothing happened until he picked someone powerful. 124,000 likes. "How many regular black employees did he do this to who couldn't fight back?" That comment got 203,000 likes. The media coverage was massive. Washington Post put it on the front page. New York Times ran it above the fold. CNN did an hour-long special. BBC, Al Jazeera, and Reuters covered it internationally. The White House press secretary made a statement. "The president has been briefed and is deeply concerned." The U.S. Attorney General said, "This is unacceptable. A full investigation is underway." The Congressional Black Caucus demanded a hearing. Daniels hired a lawyer by 4:00 that afternoon. His lawyer released a statement saying Daniels was following protocol. People mocked it immediately. What protocol? Daniels deleted all his social media. He made no public appearances. 3 days later, Attorney General Thompson held a press conference. Comment below, were you one of the millions who saw this story? On March 21st, Thompson filed his lawsuit. He filed it in U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. The defendants were Officer Derek Daniels, the Federal Protective Service, and the Department of Homeland Security. The lawsuit claimed civil rights violations, racial discrimination, false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The amount he asked for, $19.8 million. During discovery, investigators found even more evidence. Remember those 7 complaints against Daniels? Every single one involved a black or Latino professional. But that wasn't all. Investigators interviewed more employees. They found 23 additional informal complaints that were never officially filed because people were scared. The pattern went back 11 years. Multiple supervisors knew about it. None of them did anything. Wait until you hear how this ended. The case settled before trial. Here's what Daniels and the government had to pay. $12.5 million in compensatory damages. That's money to make up for the harm caused. $5 million in punitive damages. That's money to punish the wrongdoing. $2.3 million for attorney fees and costs. Total $19.8 million, the full amount Thompson asked for. But it wasn't just about money. The Federal Protective Service agreed to completely rebuild their bias training program. They created an independent oversight committee. They started doing quarterly audits of checkpoint stops by race. As for Daniels personally, he was permanently banned from federal law enforcement. He lost his pension. He was added to a federal do-not-hire list. Then came the criminal charges. The FBI filed federal civil rights charges against him. Daniels pleaded guilty to depriving someone of their rights under color of law. That's a federal crime. His sentence, 18 months in federal prison, 3 years of supervised release after that. His lawyer released another statement. Mr. Daniels accepts responsibility and is deeply sorry. But Daniels never apologized publicly, not once. His family asked for privacy during this difficult time. Thompson had something to say about the outcome. This was never about the money. This was about the 23 other people who filed complaints and were ignored. This was about every black professional who has to prove they belong in spaces they've earned. Type "justice served" in the comments if you think this outcome was right. 3 weeks after the incident, Thompson held a press conference. He stood on the steps of the Department of Justice. I have been stopped by police since I was 14 years old, he said. I have been followed in stores. I have been questioned in my own neighborhood. He paused. But I never thought it would happen here, not at the Department of Justice, not while wearing my badge, not on my way to speak about this exact problem. He talked about what this meant for others. I have resources, I have a platform, I have the legal expertise to fight back. What about the federal employee who doesn't? What about the intern? What about the janitor? They face the same treatment, but they can't afford to speak up. He had a message for workers everywhere. To every black and brown professional who has been made to feel like an imposter in spaces you've earned, you belong, document everything, find allies, and know that your experience is valid. He also had a message for institutions. 7 complaints, 11 years, how many careers were damaged, how many people left federal service because of treatment like this. The system protected the wrong person. Thompson called for real change, mandatory bias training with actual consequences, anonymous reporting systems with independent oversight, zero-tolerance policies that are actually enforced. He thanked the witnesses who spoke up. He thanked Rebecca Morrison for recording. He thanked the public for demanding answers. Then he said something that stuck with everyone. I didn't want to be the example, but if my experience changes one policy, protects one employee, holds one officer accountable, then something good came from this pain. This case revealed a bigger problem. Studies show black federal employees are 2.4 times more likely to report discrimination than white employees. Complaints against federal security officers went up 47% since 2018. Only 12% of discrimination complaints lead to any action. This case was different because Thompson had power, he had resources, he had cameras recording. Most victims don't have any of that. The question is simple. How many Officer Daniels are still out there? How many people get treated this way but can't fight back? So let me ask you, do we actually want accountability, or do we just want to be angry for a week and move on? Do we believe 7 complaints should mean something, or do we accept that some people can harm others for 11 years without consequences? Do we understand that this only became a story because the victim was powerful? What about everyone who isn't? Because if we don't fix systems that ignore complaints, if we don't address the bias that made an attorney general a suspect in his own building, then we're just waiting. Waiting for the next Officer Daniels. Waiting for the next victim who can't fight back. Waiting for the next incident that never makes the news. Comment below if you believe there should be a 3 strikes rule for discrimination complaints. I want to hear what you think. If stories like this matter to you, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We're going to keep exposing these patterns. We're going to keep demanding accountability. We're going to keep fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. This isn't just about Officer Daniels or Attorney General Thompson. It's about all of us and the systems we're willing to accept.